1993 saw many great films like Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Dazed and Confused, and The Sandlot, and of course, The Skateboard Kid. What if I told you after watching The Skateboard Kid last week, there was some producer in Hollywood who saw that and said, make me a sequel right now. That is what we're looking at today, The Skateboard Kid 2. Once I saw the cover of this film, which had a kid flying over Mount Rushmore with a skateboard and a dog, I knew I had to watch this. Fun fact, there's a dog on both covers of the Skateboard Kid movies, yet there's no fucking dog in the movies. You know, out of all sequels you can make, you would think there has to be something that's, I don't know, at least more profitable than The Skateboard Kid 2. This has no connection to the first film. In fact, it's a completely different story. The only thing that combines these films together is that there's a skateboard that talks, you know? It's like riveting story. So when I was watching the first Skateboard Kid, I ran into this film and I was intrigued why a sequel was made. And I was very encouraged when I saw the first user review that said that this film killed them. And you know, I can say to myself, this film did not kill me. In fact, I found this film slightly more enjoyable than the first film, not much more. I'd say it's because this film is way more serious. Like, it's all about like death and coping with it and stuff like that. I mean, it's not a ton about that, but it has it. Where the first film is like cheesy fun the whole time. It's like, hey, we're kooky kids in a town and we're gonna, you know, spill oil on a car, man, and we're gonna laugh it off. This film is like, your father's dead, kid. You gotta live with that shit. So today we are watching The Skateboard Kid 2. The film starts off with this kid named Sammy and his dad, and everything is perfect here. He's got the perfect life, his father wanting to work on his dream car with his son, and they just love each other so much until Sammy's father gets called away to, fly the fastest jet in the world?
This jet's a prototype. I'm gonna fly faster than anyone's ever flown before.
Turns out that he died in this crash, which I didn't really pick that up until later. Yeah, he fucking died. The reason it makes it funny, I'll explain why it's funny. Because in the next scene, after they do a weird intro, we see that Sammy is with his friend Mickey. They see a man who is towing that car away. Sammy freaks out, telling the man that is his dad's car and he can't take it, but turns out that it was actually sold by his mom. His mom here is played by Dee Wallace, who I know from Cujo, and she has had a very great career for herself. Why is she in this film? I mean, I would usually just say money, but like, I can't even imagine the money was that great for this film.
Nice, quiet.
Mother.
Sorry, I was aiming for a head and I missed.
I'm all right. Stop. Quit it. Quit it.
So that night, while coming to the gripping reality of what death is and how it's inevitable for all human beings, Sammy has a weird dream where he's flying through the air. And you know, I thought the effects couldn't get worse than the first film, but they somehow did. Ironically, special effects for this film were done by Neil Smith, who did special effects for films like Starship Troopers and Back to the Future, and our RoboCop remake? What is with people who make Skateboard Kid movies and making RoboCop stuff? Like, if you make a film about a talking skateboard, you are gonna make a RoboCop film. It's like inevitable. So Sammy, for some reason, decides to go to an area where people skate and is apparently mesmerized by a skateboard. Like, he's literally never seen one before. But it gives him hope that he can find joy in life again, or I don't know, something like that. So he builds his own skateboard, the Star Duster, which doesn't look super great. But you know what this kid's like. How old is this kid?
Mom, I'm 13 years old.
No way in hell this kid is 13 years old. And not just that, by the way, the plot for this film says he's 12. Make up your damn mind. So Sammy takes a skateboard and goes to that skate park again, where he runs into the guys he saw skating earlier. The two main people from this group you need to know is Jay Squires and Dan Foster. These are the two main people of the group. So Sammy shows up and he decides that, you know what, I've never skated before in my life, so I'm gonna, skate. And you know what he does? You think this is the moment where this kid realizes, oh, I'm destined for this and this is something I'm amazing at. No, he immediately eats shit going over the ramp. Everyone laughs at him. He is ridiculed. There is no way that this kid who just did this will ever be good at skating, okay? Like, no way at all you are ever gonna be good if you do this. At least you're never gonna be good within, 3 days of this? No way. So afterwards, back at his house with his friend Mickey, again, he has a friend named Mickey who's just here. The house rumbles and shakes, and he checks his front porch to find a letter addressed to him with alien-like letters and messages or something, and a skateboard ad in there. So he decides to find all of his money that he keeps in his sock under his bed, I don't want to know what else is in that sock, and takes it to the mailbox where he is going to send it to the sketchy ad that just showed up at his front door. The mail service must not be very good in this town because his letter just falls out of the bottom of the mailbox and then floats away, which I doubt it would because that envelope is filled with nickels and dimes and quarters and what other horrid fluids were in that sock of his. So then we dissolve to sometime later, presumably, a day or two later, and he has a skateboard that has shown up for him. So he opens it up and finds it's just a bunch of crap thrown together in there and has no idea how to assemble it because the instructions are shit. So fed up that he wants his $10 back, Sammy leaves his house and goes through this very sketchy neighborhood. Like, this kid should not be here, and this kid's probably gonna die. Sammy somehow does actually find the building where the skateboard came from and finds it to just be a giant empty warehouse with no one in there. Well, besides this guy, Zeno, who is definitely not gonna do terrible things to this kid.
I'm very much afraid a refund will be impossible.
Zeno's actor is played by Turan Bey, I believe that's how you pronounce it. He had a pretty established career before this point, and apparently was known as the Turkish Delight, which is cool. Zeno helps Sammy put the skateboard together and tells him that it is built by the heart, and it's all about heart, and he says heart a lot in this film. So afterwards, he just so happens to have a skate ramp or whatever you would call that thing in this giant warehouse. Nothing else, just this, of course. And so Sammy tries it out. Sammy, who was literally one of the worst skaters ever just, yesterday, he is now apparently one of the greatest skateboarders ever. He also grows like a foot or two when he does that as well, which is pretty insane to think. So while this is going on at home, his mom is dealing with this guy, Bert Squires, who is the father of that Jay Squires from earlier. And he is looking to buy their house from them because they can't pay the mortgage. And of course, she doesn't want to lose this house, even though it's probably a little too big for them now because, this house was for 4 people and was bought with 2 incomes, not the 1 income, and I don't even know what she does for a living. But she doesn't want to lose this house, which is understandable, and she has basically till the end of the month to pay it off. So while that happens, Sammy decides to go back to the skate park and show those kids that he has gotten a new skateboard. And when he does, he pulls off what looks like, to me, fairly average tricks. I'm not really a skateboarder. I'm not going to tell you if this is good or not. I don't know if it is. It doesn't look insanely impressive, but maybe it is. And of course, what's also weird as well is they don't realize that Sammy's probably, 10 years older now. But while this is going on, there is a man there named Ken Fields, played by the director of this film, Andrew Stevens. And he seems to get a lot of enjoyment out of watching kids play sports. And after he sees Sammy skate, pretty okay, he decides to invite him to a skateboard event that's going on later that week that has a cash prize that is equivalent to paying off a mortgage of a home for a family of 4, or even 3, assuming one member of the family dies in an accident. Even after that very convenient, relatable, and just weird cash prize offering, Sammy doesn't accept or has to at least just think about it.
am the man.
While that happens though, Jay goes up to him and says, you were the worst skater ever yesterday and now you're the greatest. I want that skateboard and I'm gonna challenge you to it, so meet us at the cliffs tomorrow and we're gonna skate down a hill.
Friday afternoon, the cliffs, 4 o'clock.
Sammy's reluctant but ends up agreeing, and he is going to there the next day. So back at home, the mom is going through more stuff that she has to sell and talks to Sammy's sister. Sammy's sister is pretty much on her phone for the first 80% of this film, and majority of the time she's on screen, but she decides to have a heart-to-heart with her mom, where they decide that they're not going to sell their father's hammer because it meant so much to him. Yeah, I guess that's the one thing you're not willing to sell, is his hammer that he clearly loved with his entire life. Not his fucking car that he sold. They don't get the car back at the end of this film, by the way. You probably have a guess of where this is gonna go. They don't get that car back. I think she actually hated that car and sold it at a probably way cheaper price than she could have, because she probably never liked her husband. She just needs the money, okay? Fuck. So at this point, you might be thinking, and so am I, where is the talking skateboard? Like, this is what it's about, right? Well, for some reason, the skateboard that Sammy got, which looks like a rip off of the hoverboard from Back to the Future, turns out that it is now able to talk, and it's Zeno.
I must be dreaming.
If you were dreaming, my boy, you'd be taller, and this would be Hawaii.
I don't believe this.
Why does Zeno become the skateboard? I don't know, but he just does, and he's on a timer for some reason. Like, it's counting down from 9,999, and like, I don't know if it's 9,999 seconds or minutes or whatever it is. It's just counting down. They don't explain why it counts down, and when it hits 0, it doesn't matter. It just is doing it. So Sammy goes to the cliffs and decides to challenge Jay.
There's some things a guy's gotta handle by himself without a girl tagging along, okay?
Man, it must be something stupid.
It's stupid. No.
They go down the cliff for a bit, and it looks at a point that Sammy might actually go off the cliff and might die here. But thankfully, he has a talking skateboard, and you know what talking skateboards do? They fucking fly.
Here we go!
Then he wins. They just say, you know what, Sammy, you win for some reason, and Jay's all butthurt about it now, so he goes to cry to his dad, who's Bert, again, remember, the guy who wants the property from earlier, and he's upset with his son that he lost to a dude who couldn't even skate just the other day. And so they realize, or just think, that it's that skateboard that's giving him all that power, probably the one that made him fly around, actually, and that's, not a terrible guess, I guess. So they decide to plot and steal the skateboard from Sammy later that day. However, the scene's also weird because Bert apparently seems to be proud that his son is skipping school to skateboard young kids and lose to them at the cliffs.
I skipped school all day long and practiced.
Good boy.
So back at the house while this is going on, Ken Fields, remember our boy Ken Fields from earlier, shows up to the house and talks with Sammy's mom about the tournament and stuff, and Sammy comes back and decides, you know what, I will go to the tournament. So then sometime later, Bert shows up to the house now, and he decides to ask Sammy's mom to go to dinner with him because he found out some loophole that he can help save her house without having to pay any money, which I don't understand how that would work, and also why would he do this? This guy's been trying to sell this house and buy it the entire film. Like, why would he want to help her? Why would she accept this? Oh, I'll tell you why. It's called the plot. Also, Sammy's sister gets asked by Dan Foster to go to a prom dance with her. This isn't a part of Jay and Bert's plan. This is actually just because Dan likes this girl. Dan's kind of a cool guy, like everyone in town likes him. He just wants to go with Sammy's sister, which... Okay, little fun fact here, Andrea Barber, who plays Sammy's sister, was in Full House, where she was actually in majority of the show, and apparently there was a special episode, or just a episode I should say, where Dan Foster was a special guest where he went out with someone else on the show, not her, so this dude's getting all the girls in town. So while Sammy's mom and sister are both out, Jay breaks into the house and steals the skateboard, not without being spotted by Mickey though. So when Sammy wakes up the next day, Mickey tells him that Jay stole the skateboard last night, and for some reason they know where to find him. He's back in that skate area where he's just eating shit because, Zeno's not gonna let him skate around on him, because Zeno swore off from letting boys ride him again. Then for some reason, however, even though he couldn't ride Zeno a minute ago, he uses him to escape, which doesn't work out well because Mickey catches up and hits him with her bike, which also injures herself in the process. And then Sammy just decks Jay, like he knocks him out for pretty much the rest of the film. So noticing that Mickey is injured, Sammy goes to find a cop to help her. And this leads to probably my favorite part of the film. So Sammy is skating down this neighborhood street with this cop who's just, driving, minding his own business. And Sammy's able to catch up to his car, and this is what he says.
What do you think you're doing? Do you know how dangerous a stunt like that is? I must have been going 40 miles an hour.
So this guy is driving 40 miles per hour in a neighborhood. He's gonna kill someone. So he lets Sammy get in the car, and then he just does like a freaking burnout and turns around and goes back to where Mickey's at. It turns out Mickey's fine. She has this crazy idea that she has a concussion because, it's 1995. Concussions don't exist yet. Sammy has to hurry up to get to his competition. And you know how he gets there? He fucking flies. Of course he does. Like, that's the whole point. The skateboard can fly. Why can't it fly? I don't know. This film, at least the last film, there was a little bit of a reason why it could fly. This film, it's been mostly pointless. And one of the funny things at the tournament is that they call out for someone, like, hey, you're up next, and they call out for Jay, and by the third time they call for him, they just give up instantly on him.
He's coming up next. You watch.
Third call for Jay Squires.
I'm afraid that was the third and final call for Jay Squires.
Like, dude had no chance, even if he was there, to say that he was there. So he has been disqualified. Sammy, however, is not there either because they call for his name 3 times. But instead of instantly disqualifying him, he actually announces he's there, and all the cameras were prepared for him because they're all locked on him as he walks down. And Ken Fields, who is not a judge for this, seems to be pretty biased as he's very excited to see Sammy. So right before he starts the competition though, Zeno says that he was way too tired and worn out from all that flying he had to do to get here, so Sammy's gonna have to just skate normally, which we saw how that went last time he did that. So he starts the competition, and turns out that he is actually the greatest skater of all time, even though he couldn't skate just 3 days ago. And he gets pretty much perfect scores. So after the competition they leave and they run into Jay, who is finally not knocked out anymore. He might have been in a coma for a bit. He calls out Sammy for cheating because he has a talking flying skateboard, but turns out they just had a normal regulated skateboard for him, which first of all, they clearly missed that Sammy turned into like a 6', 25-year-old person, but also this kind of makes Jay and Bert's plan from earlier very stupid. So they were planning to steal the skateboard that Sammy had, but at this competition, they're not allowed to use their own skateboards anyways. They have to use regulated skateboards. So like, why would you steal his skateboard if he's gonna have to use a normal one anyways, and you're gonna have to use one too? It doesn't make sense. The film ends with us at a party for Sammy. His family has gotten all the money they need to end their troubles for at least another month. Ken Fields looks like he's gonna become Sammy's new dad, which that's gonna be a dynamic he's got to work with. And while Sammy's in the backyard on a swing, Zeno shows up, who's been gone for the whole film and just, kind of dipped out on Sammy when he needed him most, in all honesty. And he tells him though that the heart was in him all along. It wasn't the skateboard. He has a heart, because the skateboards don't have hearts. They're just made of wood and wheels and shit like that. And so Mickey comes outside and says, hey, you want to get a photo of your friend with you, Sammy? Because she can see Zeno now, which is going to be really awkward in a second, because she takes a photo of Zeno and Sammy, and turns out that Zeno was the embodiment of Sammy's dead father. Does this mean that Zeno was a ghost and that he proved that ghosts are real in this universe? Or was he Sammy's dad all along? Or is Sammy's dad with him now? Or I don't know, we don't fucking know. The movie just ends. Overall, I enjoyed this film more than the first one. They actually incorporate the skateboard element of this film more in a way that makes sense. Like, the first film is about a whole heist to rip off a woman of her gold and steal all of her wealth. This film is about a skateboard competition and a kid with a skateboard. Like, it actually kind of makes more sense. Will there ever be a Skateboard Kid 3? I highly doubt it. Why was there ever a Skateboard Kid 2? I don't fucking know. But you know what? I am glad that we got this film, and if you were glad that you got to watch this film, like and subscribe to the video. Okay, that's a fucking terrible plug. Anyways, if you find yourself a talking skateboard that can fly, I don't fucking know, fly around on it, make sure you wear straps on your feet actually, because if you don't, you're gonna fall off that skateboard and die. There you go. That's how you fly a flying skateboard machine. Bye.